Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another very important live video update tonight. So there has been a lot of news in the media this week in relation to the banking industry, and believe it or not, some of it is actually even positive. Now, the most exciting and the most positive news is that the Senate has actually recommended a mandatory code of conduct, essentially to ensure people's ongoing access to cash, which is something that we've been talking about on so many of these videos for so long now. So this is the article for those who want to go and read it for themselves. It is entitled, Senate Report Recommends Mandatory Banking Code of Conduct to Help Protect Regional Australians' Access to Cash. As more and more banks shut branches, a new report has revealed the urgent change that it says needs to be implemented. A banking code of conduct is needed to make sure Australians living in rural communities can still access cash amid a flurry of bank closures in country towns, a new Senate report claims. The report released on Friday by the Senate inquiry investigating bank closures in regional Australia recommends the Australian government urgently develop a mandatory banking code of conduct, along with 7 other recommendations. Citing figures from the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, the report found that more than 2,100 bank branches were closed in Australia between 2017 and 2023, almost 40% of branches. RMIT University finance researcher Dr. Angel Zong backed a code of conduct to protect country customers. Implementing a mandatory banking code of conduct in Australia would enhance consumer protection and transparency, ensuring fair treatment and accountability within the banking sector, he told 7 News. It would safeguard against branch closures through required community consultations and impact assessments, promoting financial inclusion, especially in rural areas. The report also recommends banks undertake meaningful consultation with communities before a branch is closed, as well as prepare and submit reports on the potential impacts of the closure and identify alternative financial services in the event of closure. The current self-regulated banking industry has failed to protect the financial well-being of regional Australians. The report recommended a UK model of banking as an example, including its 3-mile rule, which ensures customers are provided with access to cash services within 3 miles or 4.8 k's of their homes. However, experts predict this model would come with challenges due to Australia's geographical size. Well, obviously, but they could expand it out for those particular areas, certainly not the hundreds and hundreds of kilometres that many people are currently being forced to travel. Responding to the Senate report, an Australian Banking Association spokesperson said banks took their responsibility to customers seriously. Really? Really? Sure? Australian banks take their responsibility to provide good service to their customers wherever they live very seriously, the spokesperson said. I think they might want to revisit that. The spokesperson also said the banking sector remains committed to ensuring cash continues to be accessible to customers by providing fee-free ATM withdrawals at 85 of Australia's most remote communities, as well as paying for cash services at 1,800 regional bank at post office locations. So anyway, it's certainly a positive sign and definitely a step in the right direction. Now, that very positive news has been reflected in a new updated page that Jason Bryce has added to his cash and banking guarantee petition, and you can see that page there, and it also details the other recommendations which are also important for people to be aware of. So it says Senate committee recommends an Aussie cash guarantee. He says, hi cash lovers, the politicians are hearing our voice because our numbers are becoming impossible to ignore. On Friday, the Senate Standing Committee on Rural and Regional Affairs handed down its final report with 8 major recommendations. Recommendation 1 is for an Australian cash guarantee. The committee recommends the Australian government adopt a policy recognising access to financial services as an essential service. To this end, it should commit to guaranteeing reasonable access to cash and financial services for all Australians. This is exactly what we've been campaigning for over the last couple of years. Our petition literally calls for guaranteed access to cash in our local communities and a guaranteed right to use cash to buy food and groceries. The Senate committee report is great news and confirms the efforts we've been making. Now the government must act to guarantee our rights to cash. It says recommendation 2 asks for a feasibility study for a publicly owned bank. So again, another step in the right direction. Recommendation 3 seeks to establish a code of conduct for closing a bank branch, which we just covered. Recommendation 4 states that bank closures can be deferred or approved by a regulator and banks punished. So there's actually some accountability. Recommendation 5 seeks to make switching banks easier. Recommendation 6 outlines a proposed regional bank program to underwrite the establishment of community bank branches funded by a levy on banks. We'll get back to that one in a moment. Recommendation 7 charges a levy on banks that do not sign up to Bank Post and provide banking services through Australia Post. So, again, I think ANZ are guilty of that one. Recommendation 8 considers authorising banks to work together to reduce the impact on communities from branch closures. The campaign is now huge and making a big difference. So it is amazing to see all of those recommendations coming out of that report, and well done to Jason for his ongoing campaign to secure that cash and banking guarantee. Now, of course, if you haven't yet signed his petition, please make sure you do. There should be a link going up in the comments. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching somewhere else, please just look up cash and banking guarantee in Australia, and all the relevant petition pages will come up. Of course, on that same point, don't forget about the Call Out Cashless Businesses Facebook group. Let's keep naming and shaming those businesses that refuse to accept cash, and of course promoting the ones that do. And again, a similar point, please make sure you join the Cash is King discussion group. Again, you'll find it on Facebook, and it's a great place to post these types of videos, those sorts of articles, all those sorts of things. That's the page for those. Now, it's not all good news, unfortunately, because as that one of those recommendations did mention a levy on banks, and not surprisingly, it turns out that we, the people, will most likely be the ones footing the bill for the banks complying with those new recommendations, and that's explained in this article. So if you are with these major banks, you might want to read this and consider moving. CBA, Westpac, ANZ, NAB, Macquarie Bank customers could face extra $370 million in fees. National Senator Matt Canavan has proposed increasing the major bank levy to keep rural bank branches open as nearly 800 close across the country. Customers of Australia's 5 biggest banks could be hit with an extra $370 million in fees and interest rate increases in order to keep rural and regional banks up and running. The proposal comes ahead of the Senate inquiry into rural bank closures, handing down its final report today. Inquiry Chair and National Senator Matt Canavan has flagged a higher levy on major banks as a way to keep branches open. According to costings by the Parliamentary Budget Office, a 10% increase to the major bank levy would raise $495.8 million between 2024 and 2027. But the estimates predict a large chunk of that extra expense from the increased levy, which currently applies to Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ, NAB and Macquarie Bank, would be passed on to customers. The Parliamentary Budget Office, PBO, assumed that 75% of the increase in the levy would be passed on to consumers through mechanisms such as increases to fees on banking products, increases to interest rates on mortgage products, or decreases in interest payments on savings, the office said. This is because the levy is anticipated and ongoing, meaning it can be factored into prices and charges for bank services and products, and over the longer run, the incidence of bank levies tend to fall on consumers. Of course they do. But they care so much about their customers. That's what they just said in the other article, but they care so much they just pass everything on to them. The major bank levy was initially introduced in 2017 and applies to banks with more than $100 billion in total liabilities. Because of that threshold, it currently captures Australia's 5 biggest banks. The levy rate is currently set at 0.015% and is paid each quarter. So if anybody needed, any other reasons to move to some of the smaller banks and building societies, there's another one right there. Okay, So, speaking of the major banks, I explained on the last video update that I did about the major ANZ app outage that happened last week and the huge impact that had on ANZ customers. But as this next article I'm about to go through explains, that's really just nothing. It's the tip of the iceberg compared to what is going to happen if we actually end up accepting this digital ID and essentially become a cashless society. So this is quite a long article, but it is very good. So bear with me, and I do recommend everybody reads this. So it's entitled to, and it's nothing specifically to do with ANZ customers, so it's something that applies to everybody. So it says ANZ outage is nothing compared to digital ID in a cashless society. Another day, another service outage from a major Australian bank, which renders your money useless. It's one thing for someone to nick your wallet, at least you've got a chance of fighting back, but quite another for that money to vanish while the wallet is in your hand. Panicked ANZ customers trying to access their bank accounts were given the bland and unsettling "we're working to resolve the issue" message, which revealed very little about the scale or duration of the service outage. No one wants to believe how fragile the digital world is until it dies. This false sense of security probably has something to do with the language that programmers use to describe the digital framework. Having your data hosted in the cloud makes a server sound like heaven, an ethereal realm impervious to harm. Your data sits at the right hand of Zeus with a harp playing nearby. In reality, though, servers are essentially computers sitting in a nest which are just as real and vulnerable as your laptop. Forget hackers or viruses corrupting your data. If an aggressive nation wanted to harm the West, a well-placed rocket aimed at a data server is all that's required. Cutting the undersea cables, where data runs like nerves beneath the oceans, is a temporary disaster. Reducing those data centers to rubble is an instant reset to early 1900s, except without any cheat notes. The Inner Mongolia Information Park is the world's largest data center. If Xi Jinping gets a little too friendly with Taiwan, forget about a hot war with the Chinese Communist Party. The cloud is a good place to start. And this is one of the problems built into Western digital infrastructure. We went for cheap and convenient over secure and sensible. It is my personal opinion that the consequences of this choice will manifest very soon. Given the cloud is a physical place where your data is housed, one might imagine that crucial data is kept on Australian soil. As the world stumbles towards another major conflict, the urgency of safeguarding citizen data, especially when there are no longer paper backups, like what they're doing with land titles, I'll come back to that, should be a priority. The nation cannot end up in a situation where the opening stages of war erase the banking sector and financial history. Having 26 million bank accounts set to $0 might have a few social consequences. This threat was recognised by the Morrison government in 2022 with the consultation on Australia's National Data Security Action Plan. A pitch was made to force Australian banks to keep data housed on domestic servers. No one offered a reasonable halfway, which would require backups to be held onshore and updated every 24 hours. At least this way the situation could be recovered. It's like giving a spare set of keys to your mum. In 2018, the Commonwealth Bank admitted to losing 15 years of customer statements over 20 million accounts. Other major banks have lost customer data during technology upgrades. Instead of talking about security, Australia desperately needs to have a conversation about redundancy, a good old-fashioned tech concept that has been forgotten in the age of streamlining and cost-cutting. Why does ANZ's outage matter? With digital ID on our doorstep and the push for cashless society embedded in government and enacted independently by the big banks, the reliability of the digital realm is crucial to the stability of Australia. Imagine there is no cash, which is likely reality by 2030. The government's already said it wants all transactions to be digital and the government to vet all transactions via the digital ID. But hey, it's just voluntary, right? This means that before you can buy something on Amazon or order your Uber Eats, the government digital ID program has to verify your identity. But that government database has gone down without warning. It's been down for 24 hours, and all you have is a reassuring message from the government that they are investigating the outage. You cannot buy anything or pay anything. You're out of fuel, stranded on a highway. You're about to miss the payroll cutoff and will incur the wrath of the government. You can't feed your kids. You can't get access to emergency supplies. You can't pay the vet. You can't pay your rent. You can't do anything. Suddenly, instead of a bank going down, the whole of Australia buckles under the single choke point of digital ID. And that's only if it's an accidental glitch. Imagine if it falls victim to malicious attack. So, you trust the digital world without a safety net if you like, but as someone who's grown up with computers and worked in the world of programming, I can assure you that I don't. I've seen enough tech support errors and outages to know that the key to success with technology is having a backup. In fact, having 2 backups. Okay? So please, I urge everyone, go and read that article for yourselves and give it some really serious thought. I mean, anyone who's ever had a hard drive on their laptop or their PC die without any backups, even if you've just had a phone that's died without having a backup list of all your contacts, will know how frustrating and oftentimes quite expensive, it can really be when technology stops working. And that's just your own stuff. What happens when the bank's technology stops working? What happens when the government technology stops working? That's what people really need to focus on. I mean, at the very, very least, please at least make sure that you have got good backups and, of course, that they're stored off-site. Because if something happens in your home or your office, there's no point having your backups in the same place. You have to have them off-site. And please make sure you give really genuine, serious thought to handing over as little personal and private information to as few entities as possible, because once it's out there, you can't get it back. Okay, we saw this happen with a couple of people that inadvertently applied for a director ID and then wanted to try and cancel it and get that, that data sent back. Doesn't happen. I mean, isn't that why we teach our kids, not to post embarrassing photos and things like that on social media? Okay. But then we turn around and give all of our, private personal information to the government and large corporations. It doesn't make any sense. So please don't do it. Okay. The final article that I want to cover tonight is regarding one of the dodgy debt collectors who was caught doing the wrong thing. So they just renamed themselves and just kept right on doing what they were doing previously. So again, if you want to know what some of these debt collectors are up to, have a look at this article. It is entitled, Revealed How an Australian Debt Collection Giant Dodged Its Own Blacklisting. Exclusive, Panthera Finance circumvented an order to cease buying and chasing debts in Victoria by passing on business to a sister company that hounded an autistic child. One of the country's biggest private debt collection firms was warned by regulators to immediately cease operations in Victoria just weeks before it struck deals to buy debt from major energy and telco companies, a Guardian Australia investigation has found. Panthera Finance Proprietary Limited, the nation's biggest privately owned debt collector, is blacklisted from operating in Victoria due to a 2020 federal court ruling that it had unduly harassed 3 consumers for money they simply did not owe. But Guardian Australia can reveal the blacklisted entity, Panthera Finance, has continued to make major purchases of debt despite the ban. In some cases, it did so weeks after receiving a direct warning from the state's regulator. Panthera Finance has justified its business dealings by arguing that the entity it is using to collect the new debts, Panthera Finance Vic Proprietary Limited, is a separate company not subject to the blacklisting. Curiously, that entity shares a near identical name with the blacklisted company, is owned by the same parent company, has the same principal place of business, staff numbers and directors, and uses a carbon copy website that appears to have been created as recently as last year. The entity only began using the name Panthera Finance Vic in June 2022, about the same time as Panthera's dealings with the regulator. It was called CDDS Proprietary Limited for about 15 years before that. The arrangement has raised serious concerns, including from Financial Counselling Victoria, about a significant gap in consumer law. Panthera Finance Vic has itself been criticised for how it collects debts in Victoria, including from a 10-year-old boy with autism for money he did not owe. Now, that article goes on a lot longer, and it's got the actual ruling and the words from the regulator. It's got the details of all the dodgy dealings that they've been up to. But please, if you or someone you know is in Victoria and is being harassed by Panthera Finance, then make sure you send them a copy of that article to Panthera Finance, I'm saying. And if they contact you again, just refer it straight to Consumer Affairs. Now, if you want to know how to effectively deal with all debt collectors, you know, whether it's Panthera Finance or any others, please make sure you grab this Bank Secrets Revealed book. You'll find a link in the comments. You'll find a link in the description of this video as well. Now, it has that tried, tested and proven 4-step debt collector process, and it explains why when a debt collector is assigned a debt, what they've actually very kindly done for you is they've actually paid off or discharged your debt. So that's all explained in that book. Now, obviously, you know, they don't want people knowing that, hence the name of the book, Bank Secrets Revealed. Okay, and there's lots of other little secrets that are exposed in that book as well, of course, like the fraud that the banks commit every time they engage in a home loan, which of course is why they are converting those paper titles to digital titles that I mentioned before. So again, if you don't have that book, please make sure you grab a copy. Now, we obviously cover all of that banking information in really great detail, along with a range of other really important topics, things like fines, taxation, the Constitution, rates, how to win cases in court, and a whole lot more at our live events. And again, our final events, live events in Melbourne for the foreseeable future will be held this weekend. So that's this Friday, that's tomorrow night, and then Saturday and Sunday, the 1st and 2nd of June. Now, we do have a handful of seats left for the Saturday and Sunday. We literally have just 4 seats left for the Friday night introductory event. So that will be fully booked before tomorrow night. So if you do want to grab one of those last remaining seats, I urge you, please jump on our seminar page as soon as this video ends. Again, there should be a link in the description. There should be a link in the comments for you, and do secure one of those last remaining seats while they are available. Now, if you have already secured a seat, please keep an eye out for a very, very important last minute email that we just sent out literally before we went to air tonight. And it was sent out to everyone who is registered to attend tomorrow night's event. Now, for those of you coming on the Saturday and Sunday, there will be similar emails sent out to you tomorrow. So please make sure you keep an eye out for those. And of course, if you have booked seats for other people, please be sure to pass that email on to them as well. All right, so as we always do, to finish off, I'm going to go through the latest testimonial from one of our members, as well as some more memes to really get people thinking. Now, this was sent through by Leslie to the Aussie Speeding Fines guys, who've kindly forwarded it on to me, and I have no idea why it's come out so small, but I am going to have to put my glasses on to read. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is a bit of War and Peace, but just some of the key points. Leslie says here, anyway, in 2022, I'd received 3 fines, 2 for speeding less than 10 kilometres, 1 for red light. One of the speeding was, the first one was oncoming traffic detection, so I started a 3-step process. However, the photo only showed 1/3 of my face. I have received the same response from Revenue New South Wales as were indicated in your book. For this case, I've studied your book at least 10 times so I can go to court prepared. For the other 2 fines, red light and speeding, I've chosen the unsolicited mail option that you mentioned in your book, so I've sent them back. On one Friday, I have received a letter from Transport New South Wales about cancelling my driver's licence on the following Monday due to unpaid fines. I rang them up and told them I've never received any fines. This is the first I'm hearing about these. Anyway, the first case was the red light fine, and I pleaded not guilty for. She goes on and explains all the things that she said to the judge, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, the judge said no conviction, no fine, no points, so I was happy. On the following Friday, I had to appear again in court for the 2 speeding fines. They brought them together on the same day since they have to bring an expert in as a witness. I'm not sure if I was lucky or not, but I got the same judge as on the previous Monday. Of course, she recognised me. Let me clarify that one of the fines had a 3-step process. The other one, I said I wasn't the one driving. It was about 5 minutes of quiet time because I presumed that the judge was reading the three-step process and was scratching her head. I think she realised that if she talks about this, it could be a precedent for others, so she kept quiet about this case. Back and forth. Again, no fines, no point, no conviction, but I did get a 6-month conditional release order, which is like a good behaviour bond. Anyway, I have saved about $150 and no points added to my licence. Thanks for your help with the book. It has many useful information. Have a great day. Best regards, Leslie. So again, that is... Oh, those are weird. Still can't get used to them. That is that Aussie speeding fine book with that tried, tested and proven 3-step process. It absolutely does work. These guys, as I said many times, have been around for 17 years now. So if you don't have this book, please, you'll find a link in the description, in the comments. Make sure you grab that. All right, so a couple of memes to finish off. I'm just going to hold these up and let you read them for yourselves because I think they are all pretty simple and pretty clear. Yes, this one. I think that's exactly the face he would be pulling if he was around to see this. Yes, another one that needs no explanation. It's a very simple question that so many people out there still struggle to answer, and I'm really not sure why. And I know many of you can relate to this because I know that many of you are still indeed waiting for Hillary's emails, Wiener's laptop, the Epstein tapes, and Hunter's hard drive. We keep waiting, and hopefully they'll come one day. And I'm just going to leave you with this one because I think this is very, very important. This is something that every single person needs to understand. Okay? Once you understand that the solutions aren't created to solve the problems, but the problems are created to implement the solutions, then you will understand just how evil the people creating all of these problems really are. Okay, it's not some weird conspiracy theory. This is going on, and thankfully more and more people are starting to see the light. So I'm going to leave things there for tonight. As always, I do urge you to make use of all of the various resources that are available to you to please get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. We really do need that this year more than ever before. Of course, all of these videos are completely free to watch. You find them on our YouTube channel, our BitChute channel, and on the videos tab on our Facebook. Plenty of completely free information on our website, on the other websites that we recommend. Our radio shows, of course, again, completely free to listen to every Tuesday night. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond that, please make sure you grab our book, The Essential Step-by-Step Manual for Understanding and Exercising Your Rights. I mentioned before that Bank Secrets Revealed book. We know a lot of people are struggling financially, so please stop throwing good money after bad at these unsecured debts, your credit cards, your personal loans. They can be very, very easily discharged. And again, that Aussie Speeding Fines book for successfully challenging all types of fines, whether it's traffic fines, COVID fines, unregistered dog fines, whatever. Grab that book. Of course, you can get these individually. You can get them all part of the combo pack. We do still have the tote bags included. No extra charge with those to save a little bit of money. We've also got our caps and beanies. So especially with the cooler weather starting to kick in, especially down south, make sure you grab those. You know, people see the logo, they come up, they have a chat. It's a great way to meet like-minded people. Now, speaking of meeting like-minded people, that is one of the biggest benefits of attending our actual live events. Not only do you get to ask us any questions that you might have, but you get to mix and mingle with other like-minded people at those events. And we've heard of people who've formed great friendships, great groups because of meeting people at those events. So if you can, please get to our Melbourne events this weekend. Make sure you do. Jump on the seminar page. If you can't for some reason, as we said before, grab that home study course. It is a complete recording of one of our 2.5-day live events. There's 3 custom-made workbooks. There's 17 DVDs. There's a CD with all the documents that we use ourselves. There's copies of every single slide and every single presentation. You can pause, rewind, fast forward in the comfort of your own home. So please do grab that. Now, we've had some really switched on people over the last few weeks who are serious about learning about their rights and have grabbed our Ultimate Platinum Pack. We've had a number of these go out over the past few weeks. So if you are serious about learning about your rights, you do want to dive right in, please have a look on our website. There is a list, there is a link going up in the description as well, or sorry, in the comment section for that Ultimate Platinum Pack, which does cover everything. And we do have also packs that include the Ultimate Pack and the home study course together at a huge discount if anybody does want those. So there's some options, and of course all of the CDs and DVDs that are in there. If you don't have a CD or DVD player in your computer, we have just had a new batch of these arrive, and of course they do have the USB A and C drive, so it'll work on a Mac, on a PC, on a laptop, and you can transfer everything straight over to USB, which some people prefer. So I'm going to leave things there. I look forward to meeting many of you in person over the course of the next 3 days. Other than that, have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you all next week.